all right. Thank you, Yanan, for the introduction. We're really excited to have this very distinguished panels of all CTOs and co-founders on our panel. And we all know that, Sui by itself is a technology, but the way you're going to turn technology into value is through your developer community and making that journey of taking a disparate components into a discrete value provider. All of it is going to be based on how we empower developers and how we make it easy and frictionless for them to build what they need and to serve their business needs. So that's what the essence of this panel will be about. And we can maybe do a quick round of introductions. Maybe you can tell the audience a little bit about yourself and what is your favorite attraction in Paris. So we'll start with Arjun here.
Happy to. Thank you, Janet. Hey, everyone. I'm Arjun. I'm the CTO of a Web3 company based out of San Francisco, California called Mesh. A little bit about me. I've led engineering teams in companies such as Coinbase. Before that, I've had small stints in like Google-led ad tech businesses, ETF shops, as well as big banks like Goldman Sachs. So hopefully I'll be able to do justice to both sides of the perspective, traditional finance and Web3. A little bit about Mesh itself. We pride ourselves in building the connectivity layer of the Web3 ecosystem, and a lot of products that go on top of this connectivity layer, such as seamless and secure payments, deposits, on-ramping from exchanges and wallets. We really lean into the concepts of like open banking, open finance, and distributed banking, distributed finance. About Paris itself, this is my second time here at Paris. The first time was quite a while back, about 10 years ago. It was in December. It was very cold, and I remember enjoying walking down Champs-Élysées with a glass of vin chaud. I think that's my French for hot wine.
Awesome. Scott Dykstra, co-founder and CTO of Space and Time. Space and Time is a decentralized ZK-proven database, and we've already indexed the entire Sui chain since Genesis. We're live to the tip, and we're delivering scalable data warehouse queries for the Sui ecosystem and for devs building on Sui, but also, more importantly, allowing ZK-proven access to Sui data for Sui Move contracts. So you can build data-driven DeFi on Sui that first queries Space and Time to get data necessary for a transaction. My background spent a decade in traditional Web2 data warehousing at the Fortune 500 scale, and kind of centralizing the world's data into these analytic black boxes controlled by FANG companies. And it's great to be working on something decentralized and especially being part of the Sui community. So very happy to be here and appreciate being included. Favorite Paris attraction is a place called Palais Tokyo, and it's a contemporary art museum not far from here, like 10-minute walk up the road, with really cool Japanese art in Paris. But I checked it out yesterday and I was impressed.
Yeah. Hello guys, I'm Jorge Antonio, CTO and co-founder of Atoma Network. At Atoma, we are a very early stage startup, but our goal is to build a decentralized network for verifiable AI inference. So we want to create an intelligence layer that can be plugged into smart contracts to make them really, really smart. About myself, I'm more of a technical co-founder. I have a PhD in maths, which I did here in Paris. I've been working in the space for 5 years. I've worked as a smart contract developer. I've worked as a core infrastructure developer on consensus protocols, ZK. And since a few months ago, I started Atoma and trying to bridge the world between, like, the gap between Web3 and AI. And yeah, Paris, it's a beautiful city. I've lived here. I think this is actually, this venue is one of the most interesting in Paris to visit as a tourist. I really recommend to just go for a walk, and you'll be amazed by the amount of buildings and monuments that you can find just by walking randomly in Paris. Yeah.
We have such an interesting intersection of AI, blockchain, data availability, data indexing, and also data connectivity. So we're going to have a very interesting set of perspectives for our developers. So developer experience means many, many things to different people, especially what is a very ideal and really good developer experience. Maybe share a little bit about, in your mind, what is the developer value that is most meaningful to you, that you want to tackle and solve? Maybe let's go this way. Let's start with George again.
Yeah, so there are like Web3 is a very nice, like it's very nice because we have so many difficult challenges to tackle, and I think we have a decade of difficult problems to try to solve. I'm very interested in like bringing kind of this layer of heavy compute to basically enhance blockchains to be able to be more expressive. So if you look, for example, if you try to run an on-chain model, AI model, it's very difficult, right? It's basically impossible. It's too big. It's very heavy compute to be run on-chain. So the idea, like, what I like about what we can do more in blockchain is that you can actually decouple all these execution and make it like run off-chain with some verifiable guarantees, and this can provide much more expressiveness to the blockchains. Like you can do AI inference, you potentially can do AI training, even though that's more difficult, and you can even think about other types of compute, right? So yeah, I'm very interested in about like everything related to extensive compute for blockchains.
Awesome. We got into this challenge of wanting to make smart contracts smarter, like George, from a different angle. Our angle was, how do we give just-in-time context to smart contracts, particularly in the Move ecosystem, particularly on Sui, where we can deliver data just in time to smart contracts. Hey, before Scott takes out a loan, let's query Scott's wallet history and see if Scott's already paid off some loans on chain and maybe give him a better borrow rate. Hey, before letting Scott LP into this pool, let's see if he's staked for 6 months our token. Or before we rebalance this pool due to impermanent loss, let's query market conditions in real time and see what that impermanent loss looks like and know how to rebalance the pool. So we were just thinking, hey, how do we make it really easy for devs to not only query their data off-chain, like to power dashboards and power apps, but more importantly, provide ZK-proven, trustless access to data on-chain? Because shockingly, like smart contracts don't really have access to data from their own chain. A question as simple as, show me the volume of Scott's wallet's transactions. A question that simple cannot be answered on chain because the blockchain itself is not a query engine. Rather, it's more of a database of state, right? And a consensus-driven replication of state. So we wanted to solve that problem for devs, and I think that lends itself to more data-driven DeFi, more powerful, more sophisticated smart contracts.
Yeah, I really identify with the question because I feel like I'm a true developer. My code never goes out of dev, right? It always stays in dev. So, how we feel about this is like, when it comes to developers want to build value, right? They rarely want to reinvent the wheel. But when it comes to Web3, there are some fundamental constructs and concepts that are either very difficult or just missing. Like Scott just talked about data availability. That is a problem. Like that's not something I want to deal with when I'm writing end user value, when I want to be writing end user value, right? So that's how we feel about data connectivity. Like we bring data connectivity to the ecosystem, which really means any 2 points in the ecosystem, whether they're two centralized exchanges, DEXs, dApps, liquidity providers, whatever they might be, wallets even, we figured out how to connect them. Now, a lot goes on top of that, right? Things like payments, identity, data availability, like these need to be enshrined, they need to be indivisible and foundational elements of a protocol of Web3, so as to speak. I actually think that's one of the reasons we've been able to see a good amount of traction in terms of developers just building. Right? Like right now, I think we have maybe 1% of developers in Web3, like 1% of total number of developers. We all want to see that be like 75, right? Like 1 to 2 is just not enough. Right, so I think helping developers by giving them these fundamental concepts and having them build their own value without having to worry about these things, that's the kind of value we think we bring to the ecosystem.
I mean, Sui by itself has very strong foundation, but it by itself is not enough, right? It's not going to solve every single problem that developers have in order to bring value. So we're really excited on everything that you guys are all doing on Sui, everything that you guys are going to bring to the world and make there to be more available tooling and power to our developers. So maybe we can talk a little bit about the future. Like when it comes to what gets developers excited recently, I think there's no topic that's boiled the ocean like AI has, right? Because what does AI mean? What can you do with AI? It's been occupied the developer discourse in lots of spaces. So maybe let's go there. Let's go about what are the things that you're most excited about this AI revolution for developers, and what are the things that excite you the least?
George, you want to take that one?
Yeah, I will start with that one. So I think we can all agree that it will be very saddening that, for example, Web3 gets beyond like all these all these like AI revolution, right? So imagine like every single week, like new, more powerful AI models are being released, open source, and like companies can start using them for their like own backend products and whatnot on Web2, right? Not like Web3 dev developers not having access to this intelligence layer will be really, it will be very limiting. And if Web3 wants to get to a parity level with Web2, then we need to integrate these solutions, right, natively. And so I think it's very important for that we really look at these problems and try to solve them. And at Atomo, we are very committed to do that. That's our main goal. And I see as soon as we have like the power of generative AI available to smart contracts, I see a whole new range of potential innovation coming to the ecosystem, right? You can think about like generative AI NFTs, dynamic NFTs. So for example, one simple example, but I think it's pretty cool, is like imagine that you buy your own Bored Ape, and it's like when you bought it, it was bored, but then you start doing a lot of on-chain activity on Sui and whatnot, things go well with you, and now your ape gets excited, and you have an excited ape, which is like very different from everything else that has been done and minted at on-chain, right? So I think these are some pretty cool solutions. I also think that blockchain can have a huge impact on the AI community itself. In terms of governance, like aligning incentives for like producing and training better models that are like potentially fine-tuned for like use cases that are of importance, for example, for DAO users and whatnot. So I think there could be very interesting synergies. There is a lot of work to be done. I think we'll get there, and once we get there, I think it will have a big revolution in the space, and hopefully it will contribute for mass adoption.
You mentioned dynamic NFTs and DAO governance, and I think those are two really exciting use cases. Another that we're seeing as a first out kind of low-hanging fruit use case is making dynamic trade decisions on behalf of the user. So like I'm writing a bot on my weekends that trades meme coins on Sui by looking at some base metrics about the activity of those meme coins, like TVL, volume changes, growth rates, number of wallets. But once a meme coin exceeds that threshold, dumping it over to the LLM to have the LLM dynamically decide, is the name funny? And like imagine writing a prompt where you have to try to convince GPT-4 what exactly funny memes or what is memeable. So you have to write this massive prompt that tries to give it examples, like words that are not inappropriate but are funny and memeable and have mimetic value. But like these kinds of emerging use cases where we're not just trading on chain with deterministic metrics from a database like Space and Time, but we're combining that with very non-determinate, very subjective LLM inference to ultimately make the trade decision. And I think more of those use cases will emerge, and it's going to emerge on fast, cheap, powerful chains like Sui, right? Microsoft led our last funding round in late 2022, and they pushed us towards LLMs aggressively at that time. And we weren't thinking LLMs at all. We were just thinking, hey, let's provide context to smart contracts. Let's provide ZK-proven data to smart contracts just in time during trade execution to facilitate more sophisticated trading. Well, that kind of lended itself to naturally, let's also provide real-time data to agents, AI agents that need to transact on chain. They still need context about what's happening on chain. They have no visibility into on-chain data, just like smart contracts don't have a query engine that's trustless for getting on-chain data. So like giving AI agents the context they need to transact on chain is part of our mission as well. I don't know if you have any.
Awesome. No, that's awesome. So just a quick question. So in that sense, how do you provide the context that can be verified on chain? Like, so for example, how does ZK proofs play a role into feeding all these on chain data into an LLM to be processed, and then?
So like using that fun example of a weekend project where you do automatic meme coin trading. You might have a smart contract that first queries space and time to say, periodically, give me a list of all meme coins trading in liquidity pools on this DEX that have at least this TVL, at least this market cap, at least this volume, and at least this number of wallets trading it. And that's a first gate to trading. So then your smart contract says, okay, now I've got 3 possible tokens back that meet those criteria that the smart contract can verify, and then the smart contract would send the name of the meme coin over to the LLM to then finally rate how funny or memeable it is, and if it exceeds a certain threshold there, finally the trade is placed.
I see, that's super cool, yeah.
I think between the 3 of us, we have agents from Atoma, data from Space and Time, and products from Mesh. We have a good journey covered, right? For me, for us, AI is a little bit of we take a pragmatic approach to it, as well as personally, I have a slightly future-looking view as well. From a pragmatic sense, we think Mesh products or our Mesh connectivity layer is poised to absorb AI and absorb what AI has to offer as and when the technology progresses. We do think ourselves as good stewards and consumers of the technology, but very pragmatically speaking, there are 3 areas where we see ourselves leveraging it today. One is very internal, right? Like developer productivity, internal employee productivity, even things like customer support, data insights. We've seen massive gains already. One is a little external. Mesh's products are very API and SDK focused, the reason why we're on this panel. Right? We want to make Web3 easier to use. And so how can we enable fintech builders to consume our products such that they can go from an API spec to building a POC within hours? So we actually do have Copilot-like chatbots available for them to build using our products. And the third is really things like continuous threat monitoring, observability, monitoring our on-chain data, weaving it together with our internal infrastructure, and piecing together a true coherent narrative, which a human or traditional systems might find difficult to do. Now, future looking, this is something that I feel quite strongly about, which is again talking about developers and empowering developers. It's a little disappointing to me that only 1% of the entire developer community can actually code in Web3, can actually feels comfortable in Web3. It also feels a little disappointing that only less than 1% of the entire population knows how to actually tell a computer what to do, actually program a computer. So that's where I think AI can help us realize a future where, frankly, I think if you know a language, if you can write, you should be able to code, right? So coding should be quite democratized almost. And so that's the future I'm looking forward to, where everybody is an engineer, not no code, not low code, but maybe everybody codes. So I think I'm looking forward to see AI help us realize that world.
On the no code piece real quick, we co-engineered with the Azure AI lab a very sophisticated prompt to SQL, so that our devs don't have to write SQL, because writing SQL is a miserable thing to do and nobody wants to. It's a powerful language, but nobody really wants to. So we built a very sophisticated prompt to SQL, particularly on Sui data. So you can go to Space and Time and just ask a natural language question. Hey, show me all liquidity pools that meet XYZ criteria, and then a SQL gets generated for you. But then we thought, okay, from a no code perspective, you could take that from prompt to SQL to prompt to dashboard and just generate a whole Sui dashboard. Hey, give me a dashboard for Suilend, recent liquidations or something, right? And have that whole dashboard get generated where a planning agent first plans out all the queries and then generates it. And then ultimately, what that's going to lend itself to is text to app, right? Not just text to query and then text to dashboard, but if you have an interactive dashboard, you pretty much have an app at that point. And then the final evolution of that will be text to smart contract, where you say, hey, I want to build my own lending protocol with these criteria. Maybe look at SweLend as an example, as a foundation, and fork it. And we're dangerously close. Like we're a year out from that point. So I'm pretty excited. Maybe GPT-5 or something is all we need.
I absolutely love that. It seems like you almost take no code is quite misunderstood. I think like no code is often misunderstood for like drag and drop development. I think that's a part of it. It just doesn't do it adequate justice. And it seems like you guys are taking a view such that like your developer community isn't just people who can program. Your developer community is people who want to interact with the Web3, who want to build on Web3, period. Right? And there are lots of builders on Web3, not just programmers. And like I said before, I strongly believe that everyone should be able to be a programmer. So to be able to use AI to actually get to that world, like maybe GPT prompts, like prompt engineering over model tuning. Yeah, I'm curious about that world. Love to see what you guys are building.
Yeah, absolutely. I will also like to add some points here. I think this is super exciting, and we can even go further beyond. And for example, we can ask like a LLM to write like a smart contract logic, and we can also ask it like try to break it, like do some security audit, we can basically pass in all possible like known hacks and whatnot, and this LLM can take it as an inspiration, try to hack it in the most creative possible ways. And that could be a way to improve security massively on chain. Another thing is that is super interesting is that all these systems, these AI systems, they are composable, right? So you can compose like LLMs and you can compose code with LLMs, you can compose compilers with LLMs and whatnot. And so in this way, you can not only like, for example, build a simple app, but you can also build a whole system of agents communicating between apps, between different components like UI, UX, and whatnot. And I think we are pretty close. We have LLMs are starting to allow for very large context windows. So that means that your prompts can be extremely large. They can basically contain whole like code libraries inside. And this gives a whole new like context to these LLMs to produce better results and whatnot. Yeah.
I mean, this is such a fascinating discourse, right? Because in many ways, Web3 has to catch up to Web2, but AI presents a big opportunity for us to narrow that window and to really bridge the gap and onboard more developers from productivity to kind of security. And you may just find our next meme coin alpha. Like I look forward to coming to your LLM and say, what is Elon Musk's next favorite meme? That'll be really exciting. I look forward to that day. So with our last few minutes left, do you have any parting wisdoms for the developers that are in this audience today? How can they contribute to this mission of bringing more developers on board into Web3? And like you said, right, Jensen Huang famously said that students don't need to learn how to code anymore. They're not going to need to in the near future. How can they contribute towards this mission?
I mean, I'll quickly start by saying like the biggest mistake we probably made at Space and Time early on in the early days. And so a little advice not to replicate this mistake is like trying to build everything yourself. Like there wasn't great indexers at the time. There wasn't great ZK proof libraries for accelerating ZK proofs on GPUs. So we built our own GPU accelerator. We built our own indexer. And like years later, we're glad we did because that lends us better performance and a lot of tools in-house we can accelerate. But like, man, if we would have known there were 8 other great teams already building those things at the time, we probably wouldn't have. We probably would have used our resources elsewhere to accelerate in other areas. And I would say, like, take a good view of the market. There's incredible teams, a few sitting next to me, that are building quality infrastructure, and will have that infrastructure mature in a year. And if you're building the same thing, and it's ancillary to your business, and it's not core to your business, don't make the mistake I made. Don't try to build everything yourself. Just build what your core differentiator is, and let the market, let great devs around you build the rest.
Yeah, that's a great insight. And I will also add that we are entering an era of exploration, so we can explore with anything. being empowered by AI and whatnot. So I really think that now is the time to like explore ideas, try out new things, anything that you find interesting that you like to develop, just try it out. You have great tools to make it to make it achievable. Yeah.
Yeah, beginner's luck is like being a beginner is a good thing now. Like having experience is almost a bad thing in this market.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Like, only thing I'll say is, go heads down, start building, right? It's like, use available resources like, protocols like Sui that are enshrining things like payments, transaction bundling, right? Like these things you shouldn't have to worry about, and demand that from your project, demand that from your protocols, right? Don't accept the status quo, and don't look at cycles. There are always cycles. Things will always never seem as good as they are. They're never as bad as they are. Just go heads down building and use the resources around you. And Mesh is always there to provide your connectivity layer, and these folks have great products as well.
I love that advice. Heads down, just keep building. Ignore the market. All right, let's give our panelists a round of applause for all of their wonderful conversation.